Meals are big activities in dementia units, highly anticipated events. Up to 3 hours a day can be spent in front of food and preparing to get to the food. By the time you've walked up the long corridor with the walker, found a place to put your walker while you have your dinner or lunch, and then finding a place to sit, then having the meal, often 2 courses for lunch and 3 small courses for dinner. All of this takes time and energy and effort to observe it, discuss it, eat it, etc. And of course medication follows that. So the residents need to sit at the table to have their medications after the meal. So this takes, a large portion of the day. Now it needs to be taken note that while the variety of food is vast and magnificent, a lot of it is sugar filled, especially the desserts and the cakes for morning and afternoon tea. And if one is not careful, one can put on a lot of weight, especially when one first comes into a dementia unit, because if you've been an elderly lady, you've lived on your own for years. If your husband's died earlier on, you can be used just having scrambled egg or poached egg and a couple of toasties, maybe all you have in the day. Maybe you don't even cook a main meal for yourself. I mean, that's not good in the sense many elderly women coming into dementia units have, are light with their weight and malnourished even. But once they come into the unit, the array of food is vast. So, for breakfast, of course, you've got the porridge, the wheat bix, the cornflakes, the toast, the poached eggs, the scrambled eggs, all the options. Then for lunch, you've got the main meal, all the various meat dishes, the vegetables, salad, chips, and then for the evening, 3 small meals, often a bit of fruit salad, soups, and frittata, pizza, macaroni cheese, something like that. All the favourites in New Zealand, all the favourite foods that we eat in New Zealand, people eat at dementia units, at the dementia units that can afford it. So where I was working anyway. But still, generally the food is good. So when the new resident comes into the unit with this vast array of food, it's confounding. And if the person eats all the food, especially if they eat all the slices and sweets and cakes and lemingtons and pavlovas and everything else for morning and afternoon tea, and then all the sweets at night, for the main meal at lunchtime, apple crumble, more pavlova, peach sponge and ice cream often with it, and cream often with it. You can imagine, layer upon layer of sugar and fat, So that can really add on the pounds quite quickly if you're not careful. If you've, been a fit, slim woman all your life and then you start eating all the sugars, morning and afternoon tea and the desserts at lunchtime, you can put 2 to 3 kilograms on a month quite easily, and it happens regularly. So it needs to be noted that these things need to be contained even from the start. It just needs to be considered about the schedule that your mother or father is on, because with the actual meal schedules, there's a menu for each season: winter, summer, autumn, spring. So there's a different meal schedule for each season, and then Monday right through to Sunday, a different meal each day. So this menu will be delivered to the relative to be able to tick off the choices for their mother or father in the dementia unit. So if you've got the menu in front of you, or the choices of the menus in front of you, sit down with your mother and go through it studiously with her as to what she likes and what she doesn't like. I mean, you will know what she likes, chances are. But if you include her in menu choices, that's another activity, good for her cognition and autonomy and having the privilege of choice, which is always an asset for anyone in a dementia unit. Any choices that they can make is good for their self-esteem and confidence. And meals, choices are a big part of being able to, have a happy life at a dementia unit and eating what you like to eat. Now, many of the dishes, of course, frittatas, etc., sabjis, dals, many of the residents won't have heard of the names. They won't know what the dishes are. So you'll need to explain it to them. And sometimes some residents do like to try new dishes rather than just the old traditional favourites like roast dinners and corned beef and the like. So let your mother have a chance of trying different dishes, because if she doesn't like it, when the next season's menu comes up, she can change then anyway. And also, staff are pretty good. I mean, they're very obliging at meal times. If the person doesn't like the food, they'll give them an option often on the spot, especially those carers that know that are looking after that particular resident, their residents, their 8 residents or however many they are looking after. They'll look out for them, make sure they're eating. And if the resident says they don't like the food, then the carer will often go off and, give them another option. Maybe it could be just a salad. Sometimes they have an option of the lighter version of salads and crackers and cheeses, like not a smorgasbord, but just a side dishes that you can have, a platter. They're very nice platters too, by the way. Expensive ingredients, tomatoes and cucumber and cheeses, and those platters actually are a really good option. And often they're given to people that won't or don't like the meat or don't like to eat it or need another option if they're not eating. So and vegetarian options as well, but we'll go into that another time. But with your mother, work out those menu schedules, put them into the clinical manager so it can be okayed, or charge nurse. And the other way of being able to work out which options work for your mother and what she enjoys eating at the meal times is actually coming to the meal times with her. Say once a week, say on a Sunday or whenever you're free. Come for lunch or dinner and see what she's eating, how she's eating, what she's enjoying. And then when you do the meal schedules, you will have a good idea as to what she likes. And if you need to make adjustments, you can just mention to the charge nurse as to what it is she likes eating and what she doesn't like eating, and just get everything on board. I mean, it's important. These people need to eat well, and they need to be hydrated well, and you need to make sure that your mother's drinking well as well. I mean, it's so easy to eat but not drink. And glasses of water, often the cup of tea is the favourite, the all-time favourite. But the person's not drinking water in between time. Even though the juice is there on the table, they're not drinking it. The water is in the jug in their rooms, but they forget to drink it, or they're not interested in drinking it. So that's why it's always important to encourage your mother or father to drink the water when you're there, to keep them hydrated, because often in between times they don't pay attention to that. But if they get into the habit of drinking water and get to experience what it's like to feel hydrated, then hopefully of their own volition they'll start drinking as well. And all around, that helps the system a lot when we're eating well and drinking well. So I've written these 2 books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. So the first book is to help dementia residents and relatives, help the residents going into a dementia unit, and the resident's voice about managing in a dementia unit and how best to help with positive practical techniques to help with all the aspects of living that are needed, to help the quality of life for these people in dementia facilities. There's so much to know, so much to learn, so much to engage in to improve their quality of life and be their voice and their eyes and their ears, in a sense, to make sure that everything's, kept up for them. It's a lot more difficult for some residents than others. I mean, if your mother is happily settled in the dementia unit, it's going to be a lot easier than if your mother or father is very unsettled. But the books go through all the scenarios, and as do the videos, on positive practical techniques that you can help with to be able to hopefully enable them to settle and manage living at a dementia facility. So thank you for your looks and your likes. Thank you for all your engagement on your TikTok and YouTube especially, and the subscriptions. And please subscribe if you are finding this channel interesting. Please pass on the links to other people that are looking after people with dementia. And I really appreciate the engagement and the likes and the comments especially. Thank you.